My 28th birthday should have lasted 10 quiet minutes. A cake, one forced smile, maybe a cheap candle from the grocery store, and the usual fake family photo for social media. Instead, my mother slid a white envelope across the dining table and said, "Go on, sweetheart. Your annual salary." The room was already waiting to laugh before I even touched it. I opened the flap and a single $1 bill slipped into my palm with a note folded around it like a blade. For the worthless loser who will never amount to anything. My throat locked, but I did not give them the satisfaction of blinking too fast. The woman who gave birth to me leaned back like she'd performed at Carnegie Hall. My older sister nearly choked, laughing. My father drummed his fingers on the table and called it my first real paycheck. An uncle at the far end muttered that even panhandlers pulled in more. The frosting on the cake had started melting under the warm kitchen light, and all I could smell was burnt sugar, cheap wine, and the old sour scent of people who loved humiliation more than honesty. I smiled anyway, not because it didn't hurt, but because something in me had finally gone still. Later that night, on my way to the mudroom, I heard them whispering in the kitchen. "Make her sleep outside," one voice said. "Maybe one night in the cold will teach the lazy bum some gratitude." Hours later, they were the ones outside my door, sobbing, pounding, screaming my name, begging me to let them in before the cold finished what their pride had started. Before I tell you what they did next and why I stood there with my hand on the lock and still didn't open it, tell me what time it is for you right now and where you are watching from. I want to know how far this story reaches tonight. My name is Emily Dawson, and by 28 I had already learned the first rule of surviving my family. Never confuse being needed with being loved. I was the one they called lazy because my schedule looked strange to them. I worked nights and weekends as a refrigeration systems technician for a commercial service company in Columbus, Ohio. I repaired walk-in freezers at restaurants, supermarket cooling units, warehouse chillers, anything that broke when everyone else was asleep or celebrating. My hands always smelled faintly like metal, insulation foam, and machine oil. My boots were scuffed. My nails never stayed pretty for long. And because I didn't sit behind a desk in a blazer, my family acted like I was one bad decision away from living under a bridge. They had no idea I was one of the highest-rated emergency techs on my team, or that I had spent the last 18 months quietly saving for a duplex on the west side. I never told them. In that house, information was ammunition. The birthday dinner happened at my parents' place, a narrow two-story rental they treated like a kingdom they owned and a trap they secretly feared. My father, Brian, hadn't kept a steady job in years. He called himself consulting, which mostly meant chasing side deals, borrowed money, and loud opinions. My mother, Linda, curated the family image online like she was paid for it. My sister, Rachel, floated between part-time work, online arguments, and blaming me for existing in ways she couldn't control. If there was a family sport in that house, it was deciding who carried the shame this week. I was usually the easiest target because I didn't beg for their approval anymore. That made them nervous. Narcissists can survive your tears. They start panicking when you stop offering them any. When I opened that envelope and saw the dollar bill, it hurt less than the fact that they had planned it. The note wasn't a spontaneous insult. It had folds, creases. Somebody had written it earlier, tucked it in carefully, carried it around, waiting for the right spotlight. They wanted a scene. They wanted me to snap. They wanted to upload the fallout later with captions about family concern and my unstable behavior. Instead, I folded the note back along its original lines and slipped it into my jacket pocket like evidence. Then I overheard the rest. "Lock the mudroom after she goes out," my father said. "Let her figure it out." My sister laughed and asked whether they should leave me the dog blanket as a joke. Someone else said, "She thinks she's too good for this family. One cold night will fix that." I stood there in the dark hallway staring at the framed family photos they never bothered to replace, even after the glass cracked. I should tell you this. I did not cry. That part of me had worn out years ago. I took my keys, my work duffel, and the envelope, walked out before they could stage their little punishment, and drove straight to the one person who had never once asked me to shrink so other people could feel tall. Daniel Hart opened his apartment door at 10:43 p.m., wearing thermal socks, an old Ohio State hoodie, and the expression of a man who already knew this was not a casual visit. He looked at my face, stepped aside, and said, "Take the couch. I'll make coffee." He didn't ask whether I wanted to talk. He knew better. Daniel had been my friend since trade school, back when a bunch of instructors assumed the women in our program would wash out by midterm. He was the first person who saw me change a compressor under pressure and grin like he'd just witnessed a magic trick. We'd been close ever since, not because he rescued me, but because he never tried to own my damage. That night, I sat on his lumpy gray sofa with a blanket over my shoulders and listened to the radiator hiss in the corner. The apartment smelled like stale coffee and laundry soap. Daniel set the mug in front of me, and I handed him the dollar bill and the note. He read it once, jaw tightening. "You keeping this?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Good," he replied. "Because one day they're going to act like none of this happened." He was right. The next morning, I didn't go back. I went to work. There is something beautifully honest about emergency service calls. A freezer fails. A restaurant loses thousands in inventory. A manager is panicking. And none of them care whether your mother thinks you're a disgrace. They care whether you can diagnose a leak, reset a controller, and get the system running before. I wish I could tell you I was instantly free after I left. But freedom doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in ugly little stages. First, there's relief, then exhaustion, then guilt you didn't earn, then anger that shows up in random places, like hearing laughter in a grocery store and wondering for one irrational second whether it's about you. For weeks, I slept at Daniel's place between shifts and apartment viewings, trying to decide whether leaving counted as courage or just delayed collapse. Some nights I'd wake up at 2 a.m. convinced I heard my mother's voice from the kitchen, only to realize it was the old apartment pipes rattling. The body takes longer than the mind to accept that danger has changed addresses. I told almost nobody at work. My supervisor knew I needed a temporary schedule adjustment, and that was enough. The less my family knew about my actual income, my projects, or where I was heading, the better. They had always mocked my trade, but trades pay in ways pride can't measure. Overtime, certifications, specialized calls, hazard bonuses, referral contracts. While they were busy performing superiority, I was quietly building a life with invoices, safety training, and 3 a.m. repair logs. 6 months before my birthday, I had closed on a duplex using savings, a first-time buyer program, and a brutal amount of discipline. I lived in one unit and rented the other to an older retired teacher named Mrs. Rivera, who watered her porch plants like they were children and baked me lemon bars when I came home from long shifts. My family had no idea I owned the place. They still thought I bounced between weird jobs and poor choices. I let them think that. A week after the birthday stunt, Rachel found one of my public photos online. Just a shot of my work truck at sunrise with the caption, "Early service call, but worth it," and commented, "Look who's pretending to have a career now. Hope the costume comes with rent money." She deleted it an hour later, but not before I screenshotted it. Then my mother posted a quote graphic about ungrateful daughters and sacrifice. My father called once from a blocked number and left a voicemail saying I was embarrassing the family by disappearing over a joke. I saved that too, because by then I had stopped treating their cruelty like weather. Weather passes. This was a pattern, a system, and systems leave records. The real turn came when I learned how bad their situation actually was. My aunt, the only relative who still ever spoke to me like I was a person, called by accident, thinking she had reached my mother. In 3 minutes of confused conversation, I learned more than they had admitted in 3 years. Rent was behind. Utility shut-off notices had already come twice. My father had signed onto a private loan with one of his friends, a man named Victor Crane, who was exactly the kind of smiling disaster everybody trusted until he needed collecting. My mother had sold my grandmother's wedding ring months earlier and lied about it. Rachel had maxed 2 credit cards under the excuse of building a brand. They weren't just irresponsible, they were collapsing. And still, none of them called to apologize for the dollar bill. None of them called to ask where I was, or whether I was safe. Their first real outreach came only after they started needing something. That's when I understood the most important thing in the whole mess. They did not despise me because I was worthless. They despised me because I was becoming the kind of stable they could no longer fake. 3 weeks after my birthday, my mother finally called from her real number. Her voice was sweet in the way cheap syrup is sweet, thick, performative. "Emily, honey, we've all calmed down. I think we should have dinner. Start over." Start over. As if cruelty had a reset button. As if humiliation became harmless when enough time passed. I said no. She cried immediately, which almost impressed me. "I don't know why you're punishing us. It was a joke. We were trying to lighten the mood." "The note had folds," I said. Silence. I could picture her blinking. Then she switched tactics. "Your father's under a lot of stress. Rachel too. We're family. Family shouldn't keep score." That line sat in my ear like poison. People who benefit from your silence always call accountability scorekeeping. I told her I was at work and hung up. That should have been the end of it. But a week later, Daniel sent me a photo taken outside a grocery store on the east side. My father was standing in the parking lot arguing with Victor Crane beside a dented pickup truck. The caption from Daniel read, "You need to know this before it gets uglier." An hour later, my aunt texted again. "They're saying you owe them money now. Be careful." That was the moment something cold and precise settled in me. Not rage, strategy. I didn't want revenge that looked dramatic for 5 minutes and disappeared. I wanted consequences that taught. I wanted a mirror they could not smash by calling me emotional. So I did what I always did when a system broke. I documented. I gathered screenshots, voicemails, dates, comments, old texts asking for small temporary help that somehow never returned, and the newest message from my mother implying that after everything they invested in me, I owed them support. I printed the dollar note. I put it in a folder. Then I scheduled a consultation with an attorney recommended through my company's employee assistance program. Not because I planned to sue them right away, but because I refused to be blindsided if they escalated. The attorney listened without interrupting, tapped the envelope with one manicured finger, and said, "This isn't just about money. This is coercive family behavior. Keep records. Do not co-sign anything. Do not let them establish residence with you, even temporarily. And if they appear at your property, make one thing clear. Compassion is not the same as surrender." That line stayed with me. Not long after, the weather turned brutal. Ohio in late January can flatten a person's confidence in a single evening. The forecasts warned of freezing rain followed by a hard temperature drop. By then, I knew my parents were in deeper trouble than they admitted. Victor was pressing them. The landlord wanted payment. The utilities were unstable. And because bad decisions travel in groups, my father apparently believed the answer was to host one more business gathering at the house with men who smelled opportunity in other people's panic. Then came the message that rewired everything, from Rachel. "Can we use your place for one night? Don't be dramatic. We just need a little space because the heat is acting up here." I stared at the words. No apology, no acknowledgement, not even a decent lie, just entitlement in a nicer coat. I typed back, "No." She replied in under 20 seconds. "Wow, so you'd really let your own family freeze?" I looked at the screen and remembered the kitchen whisper. "Let her sleep outside tonight." I did not answer. The storm hit harder than predicted. By late evening, the freezing rain had sealed streets, coated power lines, and turned every step into a gamble. I had just finished an emergency call at a convenience store walk-in cooler and driven home carefully, tires fighting for grip at every turn. Mrs. Rivera had already texted me that she was staying with her daughter overnight, which meant the duplex was quiet except for the low mechanical hum of the newly serviced furnace and the occasional tap of ice against the window glass. I changed into dry clothes, checked the property thermostat twice out of habit, and was heating canned soup when my phone lit up with 12 missed calls from numbers I knew. Then the pounding started. Not polite knocking, not even frantic tapping. Full body pounding, fists in panic and desperation thrown against my front door hard enough to shake the frame. I froze with the spoon still in my hand. Another bang, then my mother's voice, shredded by cold and terror. "Emily, Emily, please." I moved to the window beside the entry hall and looked through the sliver where the curtain didn't quite close. There they were. My mother in a soaked wool coat, hair plastered to her face. My father bareheaded, yelling into the wind between coughs. Rachel wrapped in a blanket that was already wet through. And behind them, in the dark shape of the driveway, my uncle slumped inside a car that wouldn't start. For one strange second, nothing in my body moved. I wasn't proud of that. It's just the truth, because I had imagined them needing me before. I had imagined apologies, please, tears, all of it. But I had never imagined how small they would look with ice collecting on their sleeves and fear finally louder than ego. "Open the door," my father shouted. "Please, we're freezing." Rachel was crying now, real crying, not the angry kind. "Emily, please. We didn't mean it, okay? We didn't mean any of it." I unlocked only the inner storm door, but kept the deadbolt latched on the main door. Enough to speak. Not enough for anyone to push through. "What happened?" I asked. My mother let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. "The furnace died. Then the space heaters blew a circuit. Then the landlord came. Victor showed up too. There was shouting. Somebody called the police. We had to leave." She pressed both hands to the glass. "Please, baby, please. Just tonight." I looked at my father. His eyes slid away first. "Why are you here?" I asked him. He swallowed hard. "Because we need help." "No," I said. "Why are you here?" The wind snapped around the porch. "Finally," he muttered. "Because you're the only one who has somewhere warm." There it was. Not love, not remorse, recognition of utility. I reached into the pocket of my cardigan and pulled out the folded birthday note. I kept it there sometimes without thinking. Muscle memory. Evidence memory. I held it up where they could see it through the glass. "Do you remember this?" My mother shut her eyes. "Emily, not now," she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "Exactly now." Rachel started shaking her head. "We said we were sorry." "You laughed," I said. "You all laughed. Then you planned to lock me out in the cold." My father bristled for half a second. Reflex more than confidence. And then the cold seemed to beat the pride out of him. "We were wrong." That word landed heavier than the pounding had. Wrong. Not joking, not stressed, not misunderstood. Wrong. I should tell you what I felt in that moment so nobody confuses this with fantasy. I did not feel triumph the way revenge stories usually sell it. I felt anger, yes, validation, yes, but under that was grief so old it almost felt permanent. Because hearing the truth from people who refuse to speak it sooner doesn't heal you. It just proves how long they could have chosen differently. Behind them, the uncle in the car began honking weakly. My mother started sobbing harder. "Please, Emily, we're begging you." I thought of what the attorney had said. Compassion is not the same as surrender. So I made a choice. I opened the door just far enough to set something on the porch. A plain white envelope. My father stared at it like it might contain a key. "Pick it up," I said. Rachel reached first, fingers trembling. Inside was a $1 bill and a handwritten note for the family that said, "One cold night teaches gratitude." My mother made a sound I will never forget. Then I spoke before they could. "You are not coming in tonight." My father exploded first. "Are you out of your mind?" I looked straight at him. "No. I'm finally thinking clearly." My mother pressed a hand to her mouth, crying harder. Rachel stared at the note as if words could physically strike skin. I let them feel it. Not because I wanted them dead on my porch, but because for once I needed them to understand that humiliation always looks uglier from the outside. Before anyone panics at what I did next, listen carefully. I did not leave them there helpless. Cruelty had raised me, but I refused to become fluent in it. I had already called the emergency warming center 2 blocks over when the pounding started, because I recognized panic before I opened the curtain. I knew the church gym on Broad Street was running overnight intake during the storm. I also knew my work truck had a full cold weather kit. Thermal blankets, hand warmers, water, protein bars, and 2 spare ponchos. My father looked offended. Offended? In sub-freezing weather, after arriving at my home like a consequence wrapped in ice, the man still found a way to look insulted. "You'd send your own family to a shelter?" he demanded. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because some truths are so naked they lose all disguise. "You tried to make me sleep outside for entertainment," I said. "I am sending you somewhere safe." Rachel's face crumpled. "Emily, please just let Mom in. She's shaking." "Then take her to the shelter now." My mother whispered my name the way people whisper prayers they should have said much sooner. "Baby, I know we hurt you. I know we did. But can't you just not do this like this?" That question cut deeper than any insult they had ever thrown, because hidden inside it was the assumption that their cruelty had a right format, and my boundary did not. "Hurt us more gently," she meant. "Protect our dignity while we stand on the ruins of yours." I shook my head. "No, not like this anymore." Then, because I wanted there to be no confusion, I said the thing I had needed to say for years. "You don't get emergency access to me just because your choices became inconvenient. Being my parents does not make my home your backup plan." No one spoke for several seconds. Even the wind seemed to pause. Finally, my uncle stumbled from the car, swearing under his breath, and grabbed the tote. My father muttered something vicious at him. Rachel flinched. My mother looked 10 years older than she had an hour earlier. This was the first honest portrait of my family I had seen in my entire life. Not powerful, not righteous, not united. Just a cluster of frightened adults discovering that manipulation stops working when the target learns the mechanism. "Take the blankets," I said. "Take the address. Go now." My mother bent, picked up the envelope again, and clutched it to her chest like evidence from a trial she had just lost. Then she asked, almost too softly to hear, "Is this what you wanted, to watch us suffer?" That mattered, because it was the question everybody asks when consequences finally arrive. As if suffering only became real once it touched them. "No," I said. "What I wanted was for you to stop before it came to this." They left. Not gracefully. Not gratefully. My father still cursed. Rachel still cried. My uncle nearly slipped on the walkway. My mother turned back once from the sidewalk, standing under the yellow porch light with sleet dotting her coat, and looked at me with the kind of expression that lives somewhere between shame and revelation. Then they got into 2 failing cars and crawled away toward the church shelter. I locked the door and leaned my forehead against it so hard the wood hurt. Then I sat on the floor and shook. Because boundaries are expensive when you were trained to confuse them with betrayal. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later after I texted only 4 words. "They came here tonight." He walked in without fanfare, brought me tea, listened, and said nothing for a long time. Finally he asked, "Do you think you did the right thing?" I looked at the deadbolt, at the curtain still moving slightly from the draft, at the hallway table where the old birthday note had lived in my pocket like a splinter for weeks. "I think," I said slowly, "I did the thing that didn't destroy me." He nodded like that was answer enough. The next morning, the story reached me in pieces. The landlord had formally removed my parents from the rental after months of arrears, property damage, and one final night of threats and chaos involving Victor Crane, an illegal space heater setup, and neighbors who were done pretending not to hear fights through the wall. The police had not arrested anyone, but they had made it clear that the house was no longer an option. Victor, unsurprisingly, vanished the second legal attention entered the scene. My father had tied the family to men like that because he preferred shortcuts to structure. My mother had enabled it because appearance felt easier than truth. Rachel had copied both of them and called it independence. They spent 2 nights in the warming shelter. Then my aunt took my mother in temporarily, but not my father. A cousin agreed to let Rachel stay on his couch if she found work within a week. My uncle disappeared into whatever corner of bad luck had produced him. The family that once laughed around a birthday table like they were untouchable had split under the pressure of real life. And for the first time, there was no single scapegoat left to absorb the damage. 3 days later, my mother texted me a photo of the envelope I had left on the porch. The dollar bill was still inside. So was my note. Beneath the image, she wrote, "I have read this 20 times. I think I finally understand what you felt." I stared at the message for a long time before answering. "You understand one night of it," I typed. "I lived years of it." She didn't reply until evening. "You're right." It was the first clean sentence she had ever sent me. Over the next month, something happened that no lecture, fight, or dramatic showdown had ever managed before. Reality took over. My father could not bluff a landlord, a lender, weather, or shelter intake rules. Rachel could not hashtag her way out of overdue balances and burned bridges. My mother, stripped of her audience, had to face the fact that her whole version of motherhood had been built on performance and hierarchy instead of care. Shame finally did what love had failed to do. It made them honest. Not instantly, not perfectly. Honesty still came in ugly, partial bursts. My father left me 2 voicemails alternating between anger and self-pity before a silence replaced both. Rachel sent a message that began, "I know you think you're better than us," and ended, "But I got a job interview at a dental office and I'm trying not to mess it up." It was the closest thing to humility she had ever produced. My mother asked if she could meet in public, not to ask for anything, just to talk. I made her wait a week. Then I chose a diner halfway across town at noon. Broad daylight, neutral ground. She showed up early. No makeup, no dramatic sighs, no speech prepared for social media. Just Linda Dawson in a navy coat that had gone shiny at the elbows, sitting with both hands around a coffee cup she hadn't touched. "I used to think being the parent meant I got to define what happened," she said after I sat down. "If I called it teasing, it was teasing. If I called it discipline, it was discipline. If I called you ungrateful, then your hurt didn't matter." She swallowed. I was wrong. There it was again. Wrong. I didn't rush to comfort her. She kept going. "When you didn't open the door, I hated you for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. Then we got to that shelter and I saw mothers with kids, old men with nowhere to go, women trying not to cry in folding chairs. And all I could think was, I did this to my own daughter for sport. I wanted you to feel powerless so I could feel in control." I let that settle between us. Then I asked, "So what now?" She blinked like the question surprised her. Maybe she expected forgiveness to function as a reset. Maybe she had not realized that remorse without change is just another performance. "Now," she said slowly, "I get therapy. I get a job. I stop asking you to fix what I helped break. And if you never trust me again, I live with that." That answer did something dangerous inside me. It made reconciliation sound possible. Not guaranteed, not cheap, just possible, which is harder in some ways than cutting people off forever. Anger is simpler than rebuilding. I told her the truth. "I'm not ready to let you back into my life the way you want." She nodded immediately. "I know. You will not get a key to my house. You will not borrow money from me." She looked down. "I know. You will not tell people we're close again just because we had one conversation." A sad little smile touched her mouth. "I know." For the first time in my life, I believed she might actually hear me. As for my father, change came slower and uglier. He took contract work through a friend of my aunt's and spent several weeks blaming bad luck before finally admitting that every disaster in his life had his fingerprints on it. We are not close. We may never be. Rachel rented a room with 2 coworkers after landing that dental office job. A month later, she sent me a photo of her first real paycheck and wrote, I thought about the dollar. I get it now. I didn't answer right away, but I did answer. Growth deserves witness, even when trust has not returned. Spring came. The ice melted. My porch lost the dents from their fists after I sanded and repainted the frame myself on a Sunday afternoon. Mrs. Rivera brought out lemonade and told me the new color made the whole place look stronger. I laughed at that, because maybe she was right. Maybe houses absorb what we survive. A few weeks later, I found the original birthday note in a jacket pocket while switching clothes for warm weather. The paper was softened at the folds, the ink slightly blurred from the night my hand had sweated around it. For a long time, I just looked at it. Then I took it outside to the metal fire bowl in the backyard, set a match to one corner, and watched the words curl inward until they were nothing but black flakes lifting into the evening air. That was the part no one sees in revenge stories. The real victory isn't when they beg. It isn't when they finally say you were right. It isn't even when consequences land exactly where they should. The real victory is quieter. It's the day you realize their version of you no longer has legal access to your mind. It's the day their cruelty stops narrating your life. So yes, on my birthday, my parents gave me $1 and a note calling me worthless. And yes, hours later, they were outside my door, begging in the cold, pounding and screaming and learning that the daughter they dismissed had become the only stable person left in their orbit. But the most important part isn't that I made them hurt. It's that I refused to let their hurt turn me into them. I did not open my door to surrender. I did not leave them outside to die. I sent them somewhere safe and let reality do the teaching they had postponed for years. Money can't buy love. Family titles can't excuse cruelty. And sometimes the most educational, most painful, most necessary lesson is this. If you spend years treating someone like they are disposable, one day you may find yourself standing in the cold, begging the very person you taught to live without you. Tell me honestly, if you had been standing where I stood that night with your hand on the lock and their voices breaking outside, would you have opened the door, or would you have let them finally learn how to save themselves? In my opinion, the most powerful part of this story is not when Emily's family suffers, but when she refuses to become cruel like them. She protects herself, sets a boundary, and still chooses a safer path instead of pure revenge. That makes the ending feel more meaningful and emotionally real. It shows that growth is not about humiliating people back, but about refusing to let pain define your character. If you were in Emily's position, would you have opened the door that night, or would you have made the same choice she did?